Okay, so this is not a comparison video, it's more of a showcase because I think comparing the non-magnetic Meilong to the magnetic Little Magic is a bit unfair. And I feel that if I were to magnetize this, it does have a fair shot at comparing with that, but it also depends on your personal preference. So I'll start with the Little Magic 7 first. This cube in general reminds me of the Haze, and except that there are a few things that I like better, which like it just feels a bit more stable, and the walls of the plastic are a little bit thicker, which like the Haze is a little bit too flimsy for my liking, but this one really feels much more solid and much more durable. But there's one advantage that the Haze 7 has over the Little Magic, which is the second and the third layer. So in the Little Magic, the second layer and the third layer do turn with a slower speed compared to the outer. So the outer is quite fine and quite nice, but I find that like the second and the third do slow me down a bit. So in my opinion, the optimum speed is actually just to have a really fast second and third layer, but while the outer is even faster, just a slight bit faster, so that you can have a nice 3x3 stage. But when you are solving centers, you are not really slowed down at all. But for this one, I do find that I can't really turn as fast as I like, but if you are a beginner solver and you think that 5 layers on the inners are a bit too much for you to handle, I think this cube is really great because they're not going to slip up. Like imagine you do some edge pairing and then you take one edge out, like this layer doesn't flex around, as well as when you do your 3x3 stage. Like it doesn't really flex around that much as well, so I think this cube is really an excellent choice if you're a beginner. For the Meilong 7, okay, my opinion on this cube is that in general, I think this one is more for an advanced solver. So right out the bat, I actually want to compare this with an X-Men Shadow for 4 reasons. And yeah, not the spark, but the shadow. And the reason why is, okay, I'll start with the positive ones, which is this cube is just really light and really fast, and the turning is quite nice. Then the second, third, and fourth reasons are actually negative things, but I think the less people are going to complain about those on the Shadow compared to the Meilong 7, because this is a budget cube and this is non-magnetic. So, and yeah, these issues have a lot to do with alignment. So the first one is that the second layer is a lot faster than the first and the third. So in general, this is just a really fast cube regardless of which layer you are turning. But I do think the first and the third layer are a bit slower, while the second is really fast. And this is actually a problem because when you want to turn the outer layer, the second is being dragged along with it, which doesn't feel that bad on the X-Men Shadow. And like aside from myself, I've only seen one other person complain about this, and I think like with magnets, which is I did try a magnetic Shadow, so it doesn't feel so bad. And I think with magnets, this issue on the Meilong 7 would probably be resolved. You just need a stronger magnet on the second layer compared to the first and the third. And the second issue is basically deforming lockups, which not that easy to get, although they do happen a little bit more compared to this, which I think this one is really hard to get. But on this one, yeah, deforming lockups do happen a slight bit more easily, although yeah, maybe like that's, but I have gotten them a bit more easily in Source, although in terms of trying to make them happen, it's not that easy. And finally, just reverse corner cutting. But once again, like for this one, I'm just going to recommend it to advanced cubers for 2 major reasons. So the first reason is if you don't have enough money to buy the Spark or the Aofu GTS and you still want a good 7x7, so this one is not that good out of the box, but if you were to magnetize it and set it up, you actually do have quite a decently fast and light cube. And like I would say advanced cuber and not beginner cuber, because having a lot of fast layers that don't reverse corner cut that well, it does require some experience turning accurately and turning lightly as well, which I think if you can do all those, like the fast speed of the cube is also going to suit you quite well. Second group of like advanced solvers that I want to recommend this cube to is people who want a small cube, because this thing is just really small. It's just 1 mm bigger than a 6x6, so this is 65, this is 66. compare that with other 7x7s. So this is my Aofu, and this will be the size of the haze as well, as because Little Magic is the same size as the haze, and you can see that 67.5 and 68 are quite a fair bit bigger than 66. So in general, I think that between the Meilong 7 and Little Magic 7, there isn't really a clear winner, and it really depends on who you are. So once again, beginner solvers, I think this one is a really great option. Whereas for advanced solvers who have experience setting up cubes as well as turning accurately, I think this one, I wouldn't say it's the ultimate best cube out there, but it does have potential, and it depends on your turn style. I think this is quite a viable option. And of course, I haven't tried the Aofu V2M, so I actually have higher hopes for that cube compared to these two, but I haven't tried it yet, so for now it's just assumptions. Okay, so both the Little Magic 7 and Meilong 7 have very unique and quite exotic looking mechanisms. So I'll start with the haze. Okay, so I'll start with the Meilong 7. I mean, yeah, the mechanism really looks like a haze 7. It's similar to how like the Wushuang and the Valk 5 are similar, but they change a bit of proportions here and there. So this one is similar in that regard, except like in this case, what they did here is they made this anchor here on top like a lot bigger. In this double anchor, this is typical of any cube out there from Aofu and beyond. Like every cube just has this standard double anchor, but what the original Haze 7 and as well as Little Magic 7 did was they hollowed out the top anchor, and this reduces the contact. It's different from the U mechanism, because if you look at cubes with the U mechanism, they also have this hollow top anchor, but this piece here, if it's an U series cube, right, it will sprout an extra spike that will go underneath. But here actually there's no spike, and the cut lines actually follow the out mechanism, because if you look at it from this way, there's no groove for that spike to cut under. So it's just basically a standard out mechanism, but they hollowed out the top. But another difference compared to the Haze is they not only hollowed the anchor at its base, they also hollowed it out at the top. So if you look at how these two pieces line up against each other, there's actually a little bit of empty space here. And this is something that I've never seen before in another cube. Like inside that empty space itself, that they added some ribs to strengthen the piece, but they don't interfere with the turning, because after all, this part is just empty space and the pieces will just glide across without any problem. And that's just the divide between the first and the second layer. The rest of the divides, I wouldn't say there's anything that special about them, but the proportions did change a bit from the Haze. Basically, I think the major proportion change is this top anchor here is bigger in the Little Magic compared to the Haze, and that is what makes the cube more stable. And yes, I think I have the ability to actually disassemble and check out the plastic. It doesn't seem to be thicker, but the cube just feels a lot like heavier, and probably just stronger magnets or something. Now for the Meilong 7, the mechanism of the Meilong 7 is a lot more simple, but what has been done is a lot of exaggeration of the proportions. So if you look at the bottom base of this corner, it's seriously huge. You compare that with the Little Magic. Little Magic's base is a lot smaller. And then on top of the bottom, the super large bottom base is also a really fat. Okay, I'll go into the heights later, but in terms of the width of this base, it's similar in size to the Little Magic. Something that the Meilong 5 also did, and yeah, that is they just made all the bases of the pieces really fat and they extended it out like that. But what's so special about the Meilong 7 is they also did a vertical squashing of the pieces. So if you notice, the piece is quite short itself, and like out of the two anchors, usually this top anchor is bigger or is taller, but here it's really flat, and these two pieces also, like this part here and this part here is really narrow. It's just really thin. So you can see that the mechanism is really shallow, and it squashes its way all the way near the surface, and just a few centimeters below the surface you can see the corner stock, and the inside of the cube is mostly empty. It's a fully functional and really detailed mechanism, but they all squash it towards the outside of the surface so that the inside of the cube is empty and it's mostly empty space. So it makes the cube a lot lighter. Yuxin seems to believe in like more complicated mechanisms and a lot of steps to like make the cube more stable, while Moi seems to believe in just a simple mechanism but that alter the proportions and optimize like what they have.